Today we're going to be solving multi-step equations. The algebra tiles are in the front of the room if you want to try some of these. Okay, we're going to go over this first one. 4x plus 3 equals negative 5. So first we need to model the equation. We have 4x's plus 3 positives equals negative 5. We need to isolate our x term, meaning get it by itself. Because we have a positive 3, we're going to do the opposite operation, which is negative 3. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So we added negative 3 to this side. We need to add negative 3 to that side. We then form our zero pairs. 1 plus negative 1, 1 plus negative 1, 1 plus negative 1. We remove them. Then we need to regroup. Now we have a negative 8 on this side. So our next step, we have 4x minus 8. We're going to group our tiles, our 4x's. Then we have our negative 8. We're going to separate it into 4 groups. That shows dividing by 4 on both sides. So each x pairs up with a negative 2, which means x is equal to negative 2. Let's try another one.
Solve the equation 3x
plus 5 equals negative 7. Step 1. Model the equation. Place 3 x tiles and 5 positive 1 tiles on one side of the mat. Place 7 negative 1 tiles on the other side of the mat. Step 2. Isolate the x term. Since there are 5 positive 1 tiles with the x tiles, add 5 negative 1 tiles to each side to form 0 pairs. Step 3. Remove 0 pairs. Group the tiles to form 0 pairs and remove the 0 pairs. Step 4. Group the tiles. Separate the tiles into 3 equal groups to match the 3x tiles. Each x tile is paired with 4 negative 1 tiles. Thus, x equals negative 4.
Now we're going to be solving multi-step equations. Let's warm up first. Okay, let's solve z minus 11 equals 15. We're going to draw our line. Let's start on the side with the variable. What's the opposite of minus 11? We're going to add 11 to both sides. Minus 11, that cancels out. What is 15 plus 11? 26. Z is equal to 26. Let's try this one. 2.4 plus W equals negative 1.9. What's the opposite of positive 2.4? Negative 2.4. That cancels out. I forgot to put my line down the middle. We're going to subtract 2.4. When you subtract negative 2.4, when you subtract 2.4 from 1.9, you're actually adding them together. So 9 plus 4, we know our answer is going to be negative. 9 plus 4 is a 3. Carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 2 is 4. So we have negative 2.3. Oh, did you get my math? 2 plus 1. I said 4, but I wrote 2. It should have been negative 4.3. Sorry about that. Try this one. Okay, negative 28 equals x minus a negative 5. Well, first, when you have a minus minus, it actually becomes a plus. So it's x plus 5. Draw your line. What's the opposite of plus 5? minus 5 to solve. 28 minus 5, that cancels out. We're left with x equals, what is 28 minus 5? 23. Write an equation for the number, which is our x, or in this case n, decreased by negative 4. So n either plus a negative 4 or minus a negative 4 is equal to 15. Then solve the equation. So n decreased by a negative 4 equals 15. We know n minus a negative 4 would be n plus 4 equals 15. Okay, so what's the opposite of plus 4? We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. 15 minus 4 is 11. So n is equal to 11. So going back to our equation, these two looked correct. So now we have 11 or 19. Our answer would be n equals 11. A farmer planted 35 more acres of corn this year than last year. If he planted 200 acres of corn this year, how many did he plant last year? So we know a farmer planted 38 more acres of corn this year than last year. If he planted 200 acres of corn this year, how many did he plant last year? Okay. So x plus 35 has to equal 200. 200 is what he planted this year. We know it has to add up to 200. X is what he planted last year plus the 35 more acres. So you're going to subtract 35 from both sides. What would you get? 165. A plane travels 380 miles per hour. How many miles does it take the plane to travel 2,000? How many hours does it take for the plane to travel 2,090 miles? So x is the number of hours we're looking for. So we know 380 times x equals 2,090. To solve this, you do the opposite. What's the opposite of multiply by 380? Divide by 380. That cancels out. We're left with x equals 2,090 divided by 380. What do you get? All right. So yesterday we solved single-step equations. Today we're going to solve equations involving more than one operation and consecutive integers. Okay. So I talked about this yesterday, multi-step equations. An equation with more than one steps, you're going to use SAD-MEG to solve. So first you'll subtract and add left to right. Then you'll divide and multiply left to right. Then deal with your exponents and grouping symbols. So we already said what a multi-step equation is. Consecutive integers are integers in counting order. And then our number theory is the study of numbers. So consecutive integers that are in counting order, like we have n, n plus 1, n plus 2. Okay, if they say consecutive even integers, it would be like n plus 2, then n plus 4, then n plus 6. odd integers, consecutive odd integers, an odd integer following by the next odd integer. So if n was 1, then 1 plus 2 would be 3. 1 plus 4 would be 5. So that would give us odd integers. Okay? So let's solve this multi-step equation. Draw your line. We're going to use SAD. So we're going to subtract and add first. We have multiply by 2, add 11. So our first step is going to be subtract and add. So we're going to subtract 11 from both sides. Okay, 11 minus 11 is 0. We're left with 2q equals, what is 3 minus 11? Well, the minus 11 has the biggest, this farthest from 0, so we know our answer is going to be negative. And then you're going to take 11 minus 3. You subtract their absolute values. 11 minus 3 is 8. So we're left with 2q equals negative 8. What's the opposite of multiply by 2? Well, divide by 2. We get q equals, what is negative 8 divided by 2? Negative 4. Let's look how they solved it step by step. Okay, 2q plus 11 equals negative 3. We're going to subtract 11 from both sides. We get 2q equals negative 8. We'll divide by 2. This means k divided by 12 and 9 divided by 12. So we can't do anything to the top of this until we solve this. All right, so our first step is, before we can subtract and add, we have to take care of this division bar. So this division bar means divide everything by 12. So to solve that, we do the opposite. We're going to multiply each side by 12. That's going to cancel out that 12 and cancel out, get our equation over here. Well, we're left with k plus 9 equals negative 24. Now we can start with SAD Meg. What's the opposite of plus 9? Well, minus 9. Which gives us k equals negative 33. Try this next one on your own. Okay? 6v plus 7 equals negative 5. Our first step would be to subtract 7 from both sides. And then you're going to divide by 6. Let's look at this one. Before we can solve, we have to get everything on the same playing field. What is the opposite of divide by negative 6? Well, you're going to multiply both sides by negative 6. So that canceled this out. 6 times 12 is negative 6 times 12. What would that be? Well, 6 times 2 is 12. Carry your 1. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7, because the 6 is negative, and the negative times a positive is a negative. So we get negative 72 equals 4j minus negative 4. We have a minus minus, that becomes a plus. So what's the opposite of plus 4? We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. That cancels out. We're equal negative 4j equals, what's negative 72 minus 4 more? Negative 76. We're going to divide by negative 4, which will give us, that cancels out. We get j equals, what's negative 76 divided by negative 4? 4 goes into 7, 1 time with the remainder of 3. 4 goes into 36, 9 times. Okay, Susan has a $10 coupon for the purchase of any item. She bought a coat that was half its original price. After using the coupon for the coat before taxes, it was $125. What was the original price? Let's write our equation. So we know we had half off of some price we don't know yet, minus the $10 coupon equals $125. So there's our equation. Our next step is going to be, sad Meg, we're going to add 10 to both sides. So that gives us 1/2 P equals 135. Okay, with this fraction, the next step would be to multiply by its multiplicative inverse. So we're going to multiply by 2 over 1. Okay? So multiply each side by 2. We get P equals 70. So the coat costs $270. 3/4 of the difference of a number and 7 is -15. Write your equation and solve. Pause the video and compare your answer. Okay, now our number theory. Write an equation for the following problem. Find 3 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 57. So first we have to write our equation. We're going to say our n, our variable, is the least odd integer, so the smallest odd. So we're going to have n plus 2 be the next one. And then n plus 4 is the greatest of the 3. Okay, so you're going to write your equation. We know it has to be equal to 57. So we have n plus 2 plus n plus 4 is equal to 57. Well, now we need to combine like terms. So now we're going to combine like terms. We had 3 n's, 1, 2, 3, plus 2 plus 4 is 6 equals 57. Our next step would be to subtract 6 from both sides. We get 3n is equal to 51. So our next step would be to divide by 3. We get n is equal to 17. So that's our first odd integer. Then we need to add 2 to get 19 for our next odd integer, and add 4 to 17 to get our next odd integer. So our 3 odd integers are 17, 19, and 21. Find 3 consecutive even integers that equals 84. So we'd have n plus 2 plus n plus 4. So 3n plus 6 equals 84. So we're going to subtract 6 and then divide by 3 to get our first even integer. Good job. All right. Remember, in your book, if you need to watch some more videos, you can just click on this icon. And here's 2 videos. You can also click on the purple, and it will give you some more videos to watch to learn how to understand these problems.